And we're doing YouTube and we're live and we're going for a walk. Specifically, we're going to visit the goats because we haven't visited the goats in a while. But while we're walking to visit the goats, I thought we'd carry on a conversation continuing our theme of this half of the year of exploring alternatives to 2024 D&D that you could play. Now, there's no rhyme or reason to these lists other than availability and ease of play, which therefore means that the first game on my list for today is very complicated to some. Others find it extremely simple, which should give you a hint what number one is. So, number one tabletop superhero role-playing game you should be playing in 2024 that isn't D&D Champions. Of course, obviously, I think it's generally agreed upon by everybody but me that Champions is one of, if not the best superhero role-playing game ever. Generally, I think it's 4th edition that is like the peak of what you could do. Oh, both my shoes are untied. Of what you could do with Champions. I don't know. I've lost track. There's so many editions and sub-editions, and I don't know where we are. But generally, when I read about Champions and other people talking about Champions, it's 4th edition Champions that seems to be the tip of the best versions. I haven't played Champions in a long time. The last time I played Champions, it felt the same as it always felt to me. It was always felt like there was things I couldn't do as opposed to things that I should be able to do with my character, which kind of just sort of ruined it for me. Now, my main issue with Champions is it is a point-based system. Now, I understand why it's so popular. It does let you build whatever character you want to build. You know, the points and the powers and the special effects and the limitations and all the various math that goes into allowing you to build the very specific character you see in your brain. I understand why people like that. I never did. Ooh, nice shady spot. Let's just appreciate this for a sec. Lovely. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, dog. So for me, it was just these long mathematical formulas that my brain couldn't comprehend. I never saw the fluidness. I saw the chunkiness. I saw the amount of work I had to do to figure out what exactly I was doing each round. That just sort of took away from the seamlessness that a comic book role-playing game should be. But other people, pretty much 99% of the superhero role-playing game population, love that. They love everything about Champions. They love the freedom to make or abuse the system, to do whatever you want, to run whatever power level you want, and to build the character you want. Champions is relatively easy to get. There's always copies online. You can find it on drive-thru. Hold on, I'm tying my shoes because that's what happens. That's my superpower, my shoes becoming untied. Or maybe that's my weakness, my shoes becoming untied. Goddamn shoes. I suffer from shoe untiedness. It's a rare disease. All right, we're back. We're still live. I don't know if anybody's watching this. Nobody is. Okay. But my personal problems with it aside, it is agreed to be that Champions is the best. And it's just bunches of D6. So if you like rolling lots of D6s, it's easy to learn. Yeah, I mean, I can't find anything wrong with it because I know how universally it is agreed upon that everybody loves it. So Champions has got to be number one, right? Plus, it's relatively easy to learn unless math is an issue for you, and it's easy to find, and it uses D6s, which you can find everywhere. And you're always going to find somebody who wants to play or run or teach you Champions. Number two, tabletop superhero role-playing game that you should be playing in 2024 that isn't D&D. Considering everybody complains that D&D is now a fantasy superhero role-playing game, you think more people would want to just be playing fantasy superhero role-playing, but they don't. They want to play D&D, even though they now think D&D is fantasy superhero role-playing game. So is there and there's a lot of superhero role-playing games, but there's not a lot that have come out recently. But I hear a lot of good things about Prowlers and Paragons. And I hear a lot of good things about Supers Red and Supers and Powers. But these are all systems I've just heard about. I don't have any experience with. So I can only tell you guys about games I have experiences with that I think you can still find a copy of. Villains and Vigilantes, of course, would be second on my list. It is the gold standard from which all other D20 superhero systems were based upon. It was like the second or third superhero system that ever came out. We all know, I think, Superhero 2024 was the first tabletop role-playing game superhero to come out, right? And V&V was either the second or the third. It was D20 level-based, so everybody already understood that. But it didn't have classes, you just had random powers. And most people loved random powers. And it had that weird rule where you played yourself. And let's face it, in 1980, whatever, when people were first discovering it, your target audience was teens. And what teen didn't have the self-empowerment fantasy of getting superpowers? So it wasn't unusual to just seeing a bunch of teenagers and preteens sitting around playing Villains and Vigilantes and like, oh yeah, I'm playing myself with superpowers, so I'm 12 and I have the ability to fly. When in reality, would you really give 12-year-olds superpowers? I definitely would not have given 12-year-old me superpowers, that's for sure. That would have been a disaster. Oh, you're bullying me again. Blam! Why did you destroy the school? He was bullying me. But yeah, now it's difficult to find Villains and Vigilantes. It's not impossible, but it is difficult. And there hasn't been any really work on it, as far as I'm aware, since 2022. The last time I checked, which was last week, on the site that hosts the current version of DND, and its various permutations, Protector City, or whatever the current version is called. Monkey House Games is currently hosting it. Nothing had been done by Jeff D and Jack Herman since 2022. People are still making supplements for V&V from what I can tell. A lot of independent stuff is out there and published on Monkey House and on Drive-Thru. A lot of the old stuff from Fantasy Games, when the company that held on to V&V for so long, which is the topic for another video. I am out of shape, boys and girls. So you have no trouble getting the supplements. Core rules, you have to look for them, but they're out there. It is the gold standard from which all other D20 superhero role-playing games are based. It's easy to learn because you already understand it. Your first character is supposed to be yourself, which is either awesome or dumb. You can do random powers, but there's also rules now for build your own powers. You can set it in your hometown. It's relatively inexpensive. If you already know D20, you know how to play V&V. There's only a few minor changes that you need to wrap your head around. The hit point formula is a little weird, but when you think about it, the best thing about V&V is it is one of the few systems that allows you to play the Justice League, the Avengers, where it allows you to have a, uber powerful character like Superman and a average dude with a bow like Green Arrow, and they're on the same playing field. They each have something to do, and the way the system is built, Green Arrow feels like he deserves to be in the same fight with Superman. And it's one of the few systems that really did that really got that feeling of superheroics. So yeah, that's my second one. And my third one is also shouldn't come as no surprise to you, but it is actually easier to get your hands on this than most people think. And of course, that's Phase Rip Marvel. Obviously, you've heard me speak hundreds of times of why I love Phase Rip Marvel, and I'm sure I'll talk about it again. But the core rules, the core Phase Rip system is free. You can find it on the web. There's a site dedicated to keeping all the Marvel product for the role-playing game in the public eye. You can download the core rules for free. You can download all the supplements for free. You can download lots of pre-made characters for free. There are a lot of superhero role-playing games out there that are keeping the Phase Rip system alive, like G-Core, and there's just a system called Phase Rip, and there's a couple others out there that use the same Phase Rip system or variation of the Phase Rip system. So they're keeping the Phase Rip system alive. So it's very easy to find it, and very easy to find games that do Marvel. Now, there were, when Marvel superhero role-playing game was around, a lot of people said that you could make DC characters in the Marvel superhero role-playing game, but you couldn't make the Marvel characters in the Marvel superhero role-playing game. I don't know if that was true or not. I mean, most of us rolled random characters, which was the greatest strength and the greatest weakness of the Marvel superhero role-playing game when we played. But our random characters all felt like they could hang out together and were all about the same power level, even with the ones with ridiculous powers, Now, to its detriment, of course, with Marvel is the fact that you can have D-list superpowers. You can roll a power, but then you also roll how powerful that power is. And if you're unlucky, your power might just, really, 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 really suck. It's like, yeah, I got ice powers. Oh, but I rolled the lowest roll possible, so my ice powers are powerful enough to chill a drink, make an ice cube, slightly lower the temperature of the swimming pool. How is that useful in a fight against supervillains? It's not, but at a party? I can get a job as a bartender. The drinks will always be perfectly chilled. So that was a disadvantage, and I think you've all heard my story of my first Marvel character. If I do another revisit to the Marvel superhero role-playing game in a future one of these, I'll tell you the story. But it's very easy to find this system, and it's very easy to learn this system. In fact, in some ways, it's one of the easiest systems to learn because it's percentile. But as you know, because I've talked about it 1,000 times, Phase Rip doesn't use numbers. It uses colors and words. So 18, 35, 56, that doesn't really mean anything. You don't have to worry about the math because the combat chart and the difficulty chart is also laid out by color. So unless you're colorblind, that's just so much easier. And it also uses words instead of colors. So you're not worried that my 35 energy blast or my 22 energy blast or my 15 energy blast. It's what word. And thinking with comic books, this is why my Marvel is so great and easy to learn, is comic books is about words, You never read a comic book where the Hulk says, I lifted up the car with my 86 strength. It's always like Spider-Man with his fantastic agility, Superman with his lightning speed. Words. And that's what Phase Rip did. And that's why it's so easy to learn. It's easy to find. It's really easy to find. Most of the games that use Phase Rip are free. Because that sign said free. So yeah, there's my first list. And of course, we'll do more of these. But there we go. Top 3 superhero role-playing games I think you should play in 2024 that aren't Dungeons and Dragons. Number 1, Champions. Number 2, Villains of Vigilantes, but you have to look for it. And number 3, Phase Rip Marvel. This is actually a lot easier for you guys to find than you would think. And I'll post links when I get back home and edit this video. So there we go. And we're now almost at the goats. So we will end this and return you to our regularly scheduled goat broadcasting. See you soon. Thanks for joining. Hopefully this worked.